Hey everyone, welcome to My Coast. I hope we're all doing well and heading towards where we're meant to be. Let's take a moment and reflect on ourselves. Intention 7, the purpose of forgiveness. Do you feel that you are owed an apology? If so, is attached to that feeling also anger, misery, or exhaustion? Have you been able to convey those feelings in the hopes of making amends, or at least reaching an understanding? Or instead, have you been holding them inside the whole time? Have you held them in so long that slowly they become part of who you are, siphoning liveliness that you used to have? Does choosing to bear that all silently seem like the choice of strength, or the option with less disappointment in how others understand you? Do you plan on living this way forever? Or on the other hand, maybe you've already reached the limit of darkness that you can withhold and are predispositioned to retaliate hostility or stress with bitterness of your own because of what you already carry in your heart. Whether it's in your willful silence or in your disregard for how your emotional outbursts betray you. Have you given up on your feelings being understood? What if it was entirely up to us whether we feel the weight of our hurt being unseen? The focus of this intention is on how we respond to hurt in our lives. Pain isn't a stranger to anyone, but when we're dealing with so much of it that it extends beyond the moment and resides with us for quite some time after, the weight of internalizing those feelings does more than just impede our happiness. It's a completely natural response to hold grudges when we feel that we've been undeservedly wronged. And in the instances where those wrongdoings are on the behalf of the people closest to us, in whom we've built trust in not having that expectation for, the weight of that grudge doesn't just feel exponentially more magnified, but also justified. Sometimes that feeling is so great that forgiveness doesn't even seem like a possibility, and just the idea of it being presented can make us feel a tremendous amount of irritation. It's not normal or expected to just let every transgression against us go unanswered, especially if they still persist or remain unnoticed or unacknowledged. But there is truth in such a thing as being the better person in these kinds of situations. Even though our goal here is to ultimately be capable of letting go of our pain at any time for the sake of our own peace of mind, my immediate message to everyone at this moment who can't escape their feelings of resentment is actually somewhat contrary. Before we can ever extend true forgiveness, it's important that beforehand, we actually embrace the entirety of our negative feelings. Not in the sense of yielding our self-control to our emotions, but instead, we should affirm that this lapse in our peace isn't self-inflicted or deserved, or even within our control to prevent from happening. That's the only way we'll be able to preemptively make amends for the sake of moving on. Because otherwise, the notion of extending peace without restitution will naturally make us feel as though our feelings are being overlooked. The same truth applies to making amends because of being instructed to, or just for the sake of relieving a tense situation. That won't resolve our internal feelings either. The truth about forgiveness is that its purpose is more for ourselves than it is for our perpetrators. It never seems that way when we're in the heat of our frustration or being prompted by others. But when we personally choose to relinquish anger that was born from our mistreatment without needing restitution or an apology to take place, we're really choosing not to be weighed down by negativity anymore because of what we can't control from other people. Some of us are so hesitant to this because we feel that this essentially entails us rewarding our mistreatment with benevolence. But that isn't what forgiveness has to look like at all. Everyone deserves respect, and when we feel as though our forgiveness should be sought after, it's because in some way we've been disrespected. So in our extension of forgiveness, we don't need to offer anything more than the respect that's innately due to each person. On the outside, it may appear as though we've completely forgotten that anything ever happened to us. But the internal truth is that we've chosen to not let malice be the reason for us to withhold goodness or feel our most at peace. When we're unable to let that transpire, it's a sign that we're still being impacted by the hurt we've received and haven't fully moved on yet. Maintaining sight of our reason to forgive isn't always easy to do, and the more accustomed we grow to doing so, doesn't mean that there won't still be moments where it seems beyond our emotional capability at first. But in continually striving to uphold our peace of mind whenever outside forces attempt to disrupt it, we build up our immunity against the world. For as long as each of us is on this earth, we'll be presented with tests to our patience, composure, and happiness by every single person we encounter in our lives. And they'll often take place without warning or consideration or personal awareness. If we don't know how to forgive, then we'll never be able to help ourselves from being thrown out of collectedness. And that can't help but take away from the progress we could be making in our lives. It's hard to realize while in the midst of, but it costs energy and focus to feel hostility, which is why it's so challenging to be productive and maintain our concentration and motivation when we also have negative thoughts on our mind. All of those moments we spend lost in the thoughts of our anger, and all the energy that we dispense when our focus keeps drifting back onto our wrongdoers. It only ever amounts to what could have been spent finding a way to progress in our current circumstances. I'd never wish for anyone to look back on their life and realize that the time spent with their thoughts clouded by irritation could have had an impact on where they're currently positioned in life, especially since I personally have those thoughts about myself. So how do we become capable of initiating forgiveness? Because that's not something anyone can command themselves into. The general truth is that it takes time, which is why it's a much more common achievement in adulthood, after the rashness and impulsivity of our youth has worn off. But as with everything we're striving towards at Mind Coast, there's no need to wait. We can start by searching for an effective outlet to release our emotional distress in whatever form of productivity that speaks to our personalities. Once we're able to depart with the emotional baggage of an experience, we're left only with the memory of what happened, which by itself is much easier to discard. I know this is still asking a lot, but there's nothing more important to our personal growth than feeling weightless in our heart and our mind. And being able to find that no matter what's going on around us, it's ultimately up to our discretion where we place that control, or if instead we take it for ourselves. The alternative is having a mind that will never let you rest or focus when disruptions suddenly present themselves. The grudges that we hold can start off as just annoying thoughts that keep popping into our heads randomly. Something as small as that left unchecked, especially when we're still in contact with the source of our frustration, can grow into resentment, which is something that we always carry with us. When somewhere in our minds, there's always a thought or a reason for us to not feel our best, our disposition can't help being affected, and that impact starts to weigh into other parts of our life. There's just far too much mental fatigue and cloudiness that can be born from holding on to anger, and I never want that for anyone, especially all of you. Any part of ourself that remains attached to or motivated by a personal transgression is selling ourselves short of the calm and clear-headedness we're meant to always be within reach of. And even though how far away that is can be even further distanced by all that surrounds us, there's always a road to peace entirely within ourselves that we can choose to acknowledge. Choosing to be positive in the face of our problems won't ever be as effortless as it will be necessary, but it's through grace that each of us can conquer this world. Jesus said something that we should all carry with us in our daily lives, which is that His grace is sufficient no matter what it is that we're going through. It's not that we won't ever feel weakness, but whenever we do, we can look to Jesus and remember there isn't any feeling or obstacle we can't overcome with His help. We engrave that in our hearts, and from there we simply go about our lives, taking the fullest comfort and the best effort we're capable of offering in every situation. Thanks for listening, everyone. Feel welcome to join our community, and I hope we meet again. Peace.